Welcome to this explainer. Today, we are going to deconstruct a truly fascinating simulation that's designed to test the absolute limits of human reasoning. It's an educational architecture known simply as the budget. Now, I know, that sounds incredibly dry, but do not let the name fool you. This isn't some boring lesson about spreadsheets or municipal finance. It is, quite literally, a masterfully designed psychological heist that forces people to confront the flaws in their own minds. Over the next few minutes, we're going to unpack exactly how this simulation works, step by step, and reveal the hidden cognitive traps that trip up almost every single person who walks into it. To really understand why this simulation exists, we have to start with a pretty fundamental question. What do you think is the hardest intellectual skill to learn? I'll give you a hint. It isn't resisting peer pressure, it's not memorizing complex math formulas, and it isn't finding the courage to stand up to a crowd. It's actually changing your own mind when the evidence clearly tells you that you should. Overriding your internal biases, letting go of your ego, and abandoning your first impressions is incredibly difficult. And that is exactly what this whole simulation is built to test. There's no committee to hide behind here. It's just you, the raw data, and, well, your own stubborn brain. Okay, so here is how the challenge is elegantly set up. Students are cast as junior budget analysts for a fictional town, and they're handed a $600,000 community improvement grant. Their job? To proportionally allocate this money across 3 different community programs. They have to give at least 100 grand to each and no more than 350 grand to any single one. On day 0, they hear these brief, punchy pitches for the programs, write down their gut instinct budget, seal it in a physical envelope, and lock it away. And that physical act of sealing the envelope, that is absolutely critical. It locks in their initial stance and sets the stage for the pressure cooker that's about to come. To make this whole thing work, the designers deliberately set a trap right out of the gate. We hook them with Program A, the super exciting youth activity center, featuring an indoor rock climbing wall, maker spaces, and gaming lounges. Plus, it's championed by a highly relatable, charismatic Olympic medalist named Mia Chen. Her celebrity status creates this powerful halo effect, making the project feel thrilling and urgent. Then we contrast this with Program B, a community resource center run by a coalition of nonprofits. It offers health screenings, job training, and food assistance. I mean, compared to an Olympian in a rock wall, it sounds like a dry, bureaucratic government office, right? Predictably, on day 0, most students throw the absolute maximum amount of money at the flashy climbing wall. But here is the massive twist. The boring choice, Program B, is objectively superior on literally every single metric. Just look at the insane gap in cost effectiveness. It costs just $36 per user, compared to a staggering $136 per user for the youth center. Program B serves 7,600 people across all neighborhoods, creates way more jobs, and is even designed to become self-sustaining. This gap right here, the space between that exciting first impression and the undeniable, data-supported reality, is the pedagogical engine of the entire experience. The simulation is measuring whether students can let mundane, utilitarian evidence beat out a really flashing narrative. Over the course of 10 days, the simulation acts as this intricate bias architecture. It layers cognitive traps one by one to see if students will follow the data or if they'll just double down on their flawed first impressions. You see, they don't just hand the students that clear cost data on day 1. Instead, they carefully drip feed them information over time, testing specific cognitive biases along the way. Let's walk through exactly how they spring these traps, day by day. Trap number 1 is set on days 2 and 3, and it targets confirmation bias. Early on, the students are handed a mixed evidence packet. It's got both supporting and challenging data for all the programs. But here's the catch. Because they already mentally committed their hypothetical money to the youth center back on day 0, they almost always cherry-pick the data. They will literally highlight the glowing reviews for the rock wall with a bright yellow marker, while conveniently skimming right past the glaring maintenance costs and logistical warnings. They completely filter reality to match their prior choice, creating this self-reinforcing loop of completely unwarranted confidence. And this brilliantly illustrates the sunk cost fallacy, because on day 4, the students face what's called the defense trap. They are forced to draft a formal budget defense brief, justifying every single dollar of their current allocation with written evidence. They spend nearly an hour constructing this formal, academic argument. By forcing them to actually write this out, the simulation transforms a mere emotional preference into a massive intellectual investment. Their ego is now firmly locked into their budget. They haven't just made a choice, they have publicly defended it. So, the crucial point is what happens next. On day 5, the undeniable cost-effectiveness data is finally revealed to everyone. It clearly proves that the Utilitarian Resource Center serves 3 times as many people for a fraction of the cost. Revision Window 1 opens up, giving the students a chance to fix their budgets without any penalty at all. The question is, when the numbers change, do you change with them? For most people, the answer is a resounding no. Roughly 60 to 75% of students stubbornly refuse to change their budgets. Changing would mean admitting that the meticulous defense brief they just worked so hard on was entirely wrong. The status quo, backed by human ego, exerts a massive gravitational pull here. Now, just as they settle into their stubbornness, day 6 hits them with a completely different kind of trap, the availability heuristic. This is our brain's natural tendency to judge how important or common something is, based on how easily a vivid example comes to mind. To test this out, the simulation drops a highly emotional story right into their laps about a bicycle accident on a local road. This is strategically designed to boost the third option on their list, Program C, which is a transportation safety initiative. The students read this gripping, terrifying testimony from a 12-year-old cyclist named Aiden Park. "My helmet cracked," he says. "If I had not been wearing it, I do not want to think about what would have happened." Alongside this quote, they learned that the story generated 4,800 social media shares and a trending hashtag in the community. Suddenly, transportation safety feels like an absolute life-or-death emergency. The vividness of this single, scary story completely hijacks their rational thinking, and students immediately scramble to pull money away from other programs just to find crosswalks. But let's contrast that emotional panic with the actual, dry, rational data. A comprehensive survey of 2,100 actual residents reveals that transportation safety ranks 4th on the community's priority list. It's far behind the critical daily need for a health clinic and job training, which are the exact things Program B provides. Yet, because a cracked helmet and a frightened child are so much easier to picture than a boring data table representing 2,100 anonymous people, the memorable story completely crowds out the actual baseline reality of what the community needs most. Let's skip ahead to day 8 and see how this builds into recency bias. The students are given one final chance to revise their budgets, but right before they do, a piece of late news arrives. Program C gets a basic safety certification and a potential, though not even guaranteed, matching grant for the future. Guys, it's fundamentally minor news. Even with this update, comprehensive data shows Program B still vastly outperforms everything else on equity, reach, and cost. Yet, because this news is fresh and arrives right before the final decision, students will actually shift thousands of dollars toward Program C simply because the information is the most recent thing they read. The last thing in is the loudest. Finally, on day 10, the curtain is pulled completely back. The objective superiority of Program B, the unglamorous bureaucratic option, is fully revealed to the class in painstaking detail. And here is where we see the final and honestly the most amusing trap, hindsight bias. Once the students see all the evidence stacked up and realize Program B was the right choice all along, they inevitably claim that they knew the right answer from the start. They totally convinced themselves they were always objective, data-driven analysts who saw right through the noise. But opening their sealed envelopes from day 0 shatters that illusion entirely. The recommended budget for Program B was $275,000, but the envelopes reveal a totally different reality. The typical student only gave it $100,000 while dumping $350,000 into the flashy youth activity center. That physical envelope exists precisely so they cannot rewrite their own memories. The gap between what I actually did and what I claim I always believed is placed right in front of them, proving that our brains will literally rewrite our personal history just to protect our egos. Ultimately, the real goal of this grueling simulation isn't to teach municipal budgeting. It's anchored in what's called the patience framework, which is designed to build 4 key capacities. First, metacognition, which is literally thinking about your thinking. Second, information discernment, separating that vivid emotional noise from the actual baseline facts. Third, adaptive strategy. And fourth, the ability to comfortably navigate uncertainty. By feeling the visceral pull of these cognitive traps before ever learning their academic names, the students earn a profound, lasting lesson in how to manage their own minds when the right answer isn't immediately obvious. Which leaves us with one incredibly uncomfortable thought to carry into our own lives and decisions moving forward. Look, we all like to think we're perfectly rational, data-driven people who gracefully change our minds the second new evidence presents itself. But this explainer shows just how hard that really is in practice. Ask yourself, when the numbers change, do you actually change with them? Or do you dig in and defend your first instinct? If you sealed a prediction in an envelope tomorrow, would you really have the nerve to open it? Thanks for learning with me today. Stay curious, stay objective, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.